a lot of constituents, not only of Democrats, but Republicans, Green Party people, and everybody. So I think it'll be really easy to get a lot of people behind this. So the first place I wanted to talk about was Michael's. And the reason why was because it just shocked me that, you know, a garden variety retail store who put on their website, we have this thing, various federal, state, and local laws prohibit discrimination based on race, color, sex, religion, national origin, ancestry, age, sexual orientation, physical or mental disability, or marital status. Okay, so having had this beautiful prologue, then you get into where you're filling out the form, and if you go to the next page, it says date of birth, and then it says not visible to hiring manager, but it is visible to the HR organization. So the HR organization is going to thump you before the hiring manager ever even sees you. So that really, I was just like, what? And sure enough, and then you can see the rest, it's all kind of standard. And then the next thing they wanted was my social security number. What? What do you want my social security number? Well, we're going to check to make sure that you're who you say you are. How can you even do that if you're a company? So this is what happened to me, and I've talked to other people, and it's happened to them. And then that was one case. The next case is Canadian Northern, and I had a great interview going there. I was going to do some technical work for them on their train, with their software that tracks how trains are moving, and if there's any potential problems, it catches it well in advance, and that kind of thing. So during the interview, the hiring manager asked to be excused. So I'm sitting there waiting for him like this, and he comes up behind me, and I could feel him looking at me at the back of my head. Well, if you look at the back of my head, it's a little bit bald. So what happened was he's just sitting there thinking, this is an old guy. So he came back, and I felt him looking at me, and I just thought, nah, couldn't possibly be. I ignored it. And I thought the interview was great, and he was asking all kinds of questions, there was all kinds of dialogue, everything was just clicking. So the next day, I get a call from HR saying that the hiring manager was not interested in me because he felt that he would not be able to keep up with our fast-paced business. So, I mean, I'm thinking he took a class on this, and they told him to say that. I mean, if you don't want to hire somebody because of this whole age thing, it's a fast-paced business, and he's a slow guy. So that's what happened there. And I thought, well, don't they prevent that, or can't you do something about it, or I don't know. Next, please. So there's two kinds of age discrimination in the workplace and in the process of applying for a job, and that's the focus of what I want to talk about. Okay, next. Okay, so if you go out on the web and you want to find out about regulations, you can find that there's a state, Illinois Department of Human Rights at that URL, and then you can find that there's a federal URL too called the EEOC, and they do similar kinds of things. Next. Okay, so what I listed a bunch of things that they use in describing what are violations, and they're pretty intuitive. Even without even going there, you pretty much know what they are. Next. But there's also laws for employment agencies. it shall be unlawful for an employment agency to fail or refuse to refer for employment, otherwise discriminate against any individual because of such individual's age, or to classify or refer to employment any individual on the basis of such individual's age. Okay, so these are some more rules that follow that. Next, please. Okay, so here's a little scenario. So the headhunter says something that took my breath away, said my caller, Philip. He told me that his client looked at my resume and said, looks great. But then he found my LinkedIn profile and decided I'm a little long in the tooth for the job. This is the first time I ever heard that expression, long in the tooth. I don't even know what that means. Okay. I was silent. That took my breath away too. Long in the tooth, I asked, as in old? Exactly, says Philip. The headhunter actually told me that the client said I was too old for the job. I asked him if that was illegal. I'm pretty sure it is. But he said that in the client's view is that they don't interview me. If they don't interview me, I'm not a candidate, so it's not discrimination.
Such logic.
What?
Such logic.
Whoa.
Legally, they're probably right.
So, okay, so that's false, I said, but even as I said, I knew it didn't make any difference. So what's he gonna do, sue the employer? Or, you know, if the employer finds someone, they can say, well, we found a better fit, so, and that's the word they love to use, we found a better fit. Okay, next. Okay, and in my stumbling around, I saw this, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I just thought, oh, it's kind of like what I'm talking about. And I think the kid's cute, and I think he's funny, and it just kind of struck me, so I thought it fit. So last week, I thought, you know what? I've never actually talked to somebody from one of these places. I think I'm going to call the DHR, which is the state counselor. And I described this Michaels thing that I talked to you about. And they said, well, the government says it's okay to ask anything you want on a job application, but it's illegal to act upon it.
That's true.
Let's pause and reflect and think about that. What are they saying? They're saying that it's my job as the person who's trying to get the job to file a charge. So the government's not doing anything. They just file the charge, or else nothing gets done. And so what I'm saying is, hey, Michaels won't let me apply for the job unless I give them my age. If you remember that form I just saw, there's a little asterisk there. And what that says is, if you don't put something in there, you can't hit the submit button. So
what if you lie?
you could lie.
Then you
Lie,
lie.
you're a violation.
But-
Then you lie.
but
You
there
don't want to
is-
lie. You don't want to lie. No.
Okay, all right, I'm just saying you could. I don't like to lie, period, and I don't like to be put.
Because they shouldn't be, it's impossible to ask something, see it, and not have it impact.
Yes,
Okay, Facebook, various companies, right now they're actually stripping names because statistically, people with black sounding names do not get a call back.
yes,
And so companies, when I'm going through, not me personally, when someone's going through a stack of resumes, it's, you have to put your name on there, but if it's not sounding the right way, it gets in the other pile.
yeah,
And so companies are actually, there's software out there now that strips all that information. It's just supposed to be, I did this experience, I have that experience.
yeah.
I'm this, I'm that.
That's
And
here's my
nobody-
skill set, and this is
no
why you need it.
information. The state of Maryland has made a lot of progress on women's rights for pay. Might be an example that we could use to try and drive less discrimination, but it's impossible. If they ask it, it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't, that's
Is
illegal right there.
Michaels publicly held or privately held? Because that really
I don't know.
has a whole different set of parameters that can come into play.
Joe,
Oh.
do you have more?
Yeah. What you're telling me is shake it, huh? Okay.
Let's go.
I don't have too much more. It's, I'm thrilled that you guys are interested in this because I've done presentations before and I get blank stares sometimes. Okay, but anyway, all forms of discrimination. This was from the EEOC side. Notice that the number one is retaliation. In other words, I discriminate and my company does something nasty to me for doing it. And then there's sex, disability, race, and age. Okay, you can see what the percentages are. Next. Why do companies do this? I found a study at Stanford, and it's the most intuitive thing in the world. As people get older, they make up more claims, and they drive the costs up for that age group. So insurance companies charge companies more to insure. So that's a big piece of it. It's not.
That's
it's
a
not- it's
huge
not the-
piece, that's a huge piece of it.
That's a big piece.
It's a big piece.
Right. So, in conclusion, the government says it's okay to ask almost anything on a job application. It's illegal to act upon that information, and it's up to the individual to file a charge with the government. And the government does nothing.
Well, it's almost
otherwise.
impossible to prove that they didn't act. I mean, it's one of the most,
Well-
it's one of the hardest things to prove
All right, yeah, but
in labor.
I've got some ideas. I'm one of these guys that sits in the back room that thinks all day long about this kind of stuff. So, now these are the next steps. Do you want to do that now, or would you like to have the guest speaker go first?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll have her first, and then I'll give you my ideas.
Let's give a big round for Heneghan. Okay, there's I don't know.
I'm a retired employment discrimination attorney.
All right.
Okay? So, did that for about 30 years. So the first thing, because I'm a lawyer, we always start with disclaimers, right? Because that's how we are. We cover our butts. And so what I'm saying to you now is, because I am retired, what I'm saying to you does not constitute legal advice. The reason for that is, when you take retirement status as an attorney,